There we go.
Okay, all right, we're on. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Friday, December 18th episode of Between Two Teachers. Lots to talk about. Very eventful year that it's been, because this
Yep.
is probably going to be our last in this year, 2020, the year from hell. But we'll be back probably January, about the 8th, something like that.
Right.
It's going to take a few weeks. So my name is Consuelo Lara.
And I'm Madeline Cronenberg, and we are very happy to have you here today. And as always, we want to give our acknowledgement to the people of the Chochenyo, Karkin, Ohlone ancestral tribes, on whose land we work and prosper, but who we honor by their original presence. And we're so happy that more and more organizations are honoring the Native peoples in all of their meetings. I wanted to start today just to talk about, we can't get past the coronavirus, the story of 2020. And there was actually news in Europe because we are in such a terrible surge around the planet with only some places don't have it, but some places have been successful, but very few. In Europe now, they finally are closing some of their schools because they've come to the conclusion that they have to. The lockdowns are in Europe just as they are here. And in some places, they have decided to close. And that was a big decision for them because they had basically generally completely reopened. But there are still some countries that are open. There are some that are sticking with it. Everything else is closed, but the schools are open. But there is an article, so if you want to check on the resource list, you can read the article about the European decisions. Nationally, the most interesting story I thought this week is Betsy DeVos. Betsy is leaving, right? Betsy knows she's leaving, and we don't know. We can only hope who will replace her, but as of right now, as we're doing this, we don't know who will replace her. People may know by the end of the day today. It may be it will be well known by the time we do another episode. But right now we don't know. But we know Betsy's leaving. And Betsy had a meeting with her team at the Department of Education. And she told them to resist the new administration.
Wow.
Because Betsy feels that she was here for the children and the new administration is only going to be for the adults.
Oh, brother. Jeez.
This is what Betsy said.
Can't they get fired if they that team? Can't they get fired?
Well, they're not even, this is the interesting thing. It wasn't, she didn't rehire a whole new group of people. The people that she brought in are going to go out with her. Oh. The people she's really talking to are veteran people who are career people at the Department of Education.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, they're kind of,
right.
Yeah, they were there before and they'll be there after. Okay.
And that's what she knows, right? And whether or not they had to carry out what she wanted because they were working there and that's what they had to do. But by and large, I think that whoever the new superintendent or the Secretary of Education is going to probably get more support than she did.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what, yeah. They don't need to resist. They just need to go with, after all, look at Dr. Biden will be living in the White House. That was the other big story this week.
I know. Can you imagine? Wow.
No. To think it was okay to say that just because her doctorate was not a medical doctorate, that you shouldn't use the word doctor. That was so, it was so sexist. It was completely sexist, and it just showed it diminished women and it diminished education.
Exactly. It does. Right. Absolutely.
And with her, it also diminishes the thing that really strikes me is she's a teacher, a professor at a community college, not at a 4-year institution, not at an Ivy. She's at a Delaware Community College.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. And if anybody is close to the community, it would be Dr. Biden.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So Dr. Biden, I hope will, lead us through our education issues, as will our new Secretary of Education.
Good for her. Good for her.
Yeah, so that was good. But then for reopening, the big thing in California, so California's struggling with reopening because we're now closing everything down. Two interesting things happen. One of them is in LA, there's now a petition where they are demanding a 4-week circuit breaker, where they're saying they need to allow businesses to stay closed and all workers to stay home to suppress the virus. And LA has a bigger spread right now than we do in Northern California.
Really? Oh, wow. Didn't know that. Okay.
They're down to, their ICU numbers are like below 5% or 2%.
Oh, goodness, that is worse.
It's very, very low. So they shouldn't be talking about going back at all, but it's so very complicated because it's a big region, and there are still communities that are open. The only thing is we will have the winter break now. People will, at least even the ones that were open, will be closed for winter break.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's a petition now to do that. What they want is a circuit breaker against COVID-19, and the unions, the teachers unions and the support staff unions are working for that with a petition. So there's that. And then California has a community vaccine advisory committee.
Okay.
Appointed by the governor.
Okay.
And their job is to figure out, to prioritize who gets the vaccine first.
Okay. Yep.
And in California, so we've already had some vaccines delivered. And the two obvious groups, of course, are the healthcare providers. If you're working in an emergency room, you're caring for COVID patients, exactly. then you really do go first, because we're also seeing a shortage of staff as the healthcare providers become sick. Yeah. And the second group is people who live in nursing homes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And the statistic is 5% of the people who get the disease are only 5% are in nursing homes, but 40% of the deaths are nursing home residents.
Wow. That's really something. Yeah.
That's the whole thing. They're incredibly vulnerable.
Sure.
So the chances of you surviving it, if you're in that 5%, I mean, it's just a little better than 50-50. Wow. So that's who they're doing. So those are the first two. Okay. But then the next three are the ones that are interesting. The next three are education staff. So it'd be teachers and anybody in school buildings, emergency personnel, police and fire. And the third one is agricultural workers and food service workers. Wow. In no particular order, but those are the three that I think the teachers might wind up going first.
Yeah. That's
out of those groups. And then after that would come everybody else.
Yeah.
But that's so these folks are working next week. They're like having their meetings every week, and their meetings are public. You can link to them and watch. And it's really interesting to see how California is making this decision. Okay. They're an advisory panel. They'll give their advice then to the governor, I guess.
Yeah. Wow.
In the legislature.
And that'll probably come soon, very soon. That decision
that'll come
made.
That'll come very soon, because they're going to be they need to be ready to use that format in January.
And I think I saw Tony Thurmond has weighed in on that, of categorizing teachers as essential workers as well.
Tony Thurmond has weighed in on that, as have resolutions from the city of San Francisco and the county of Contra Costa.
Yep, Board of Supervisors.
Yep. Yes.
There's a lot.
Right. And I'm sure other places in the state. Those are the only two that I know of for sure, but I am certain that there are many that others are weighing in on it as well. And the fact that this particular task force who are making the decision of making the recommendation. They're already there. So it's then up to the governor.
So that's very hopeful, very hopeful.
It is incredibly hopeful. It is incredibly hopeful.
Yeah.
Then the other interesting little California things, I just wanted to mention this in a place called Warner Springs, which is a small community, but in California. They had their school board election and they had a tie.
Oh, wow.
So you know what they had to do?
What?
Coin flip.
Oh, oh my goodness.
That's what they did at the first meeting. They
They
did the
agreed
coin
to
flip
that?
and somebody went home and somebody sat down.
Well, there you go. That saves you some money. You don't have to do a runoff.
No, you don't do any of that. No,
Oh,
it's a
my.
tie. It was a legitimate tie. I think they must have done a recount, but it was a tie. And when a recount, there was another school board member who won by one vote and had a recount, and she still won by one vote. And then there was another school board member who had her name on the ballot, but announced that she wasn't going to serve. And then she won.
Oh,
So she changed her mind.
oh,
And she is going to serve. So, and she was a teacher. She's a retired teacher. And she said that she thought that putting retired teacher on was helpful to her because she ran no campaign. She simply and these other people did that ran against her, but she won. So there are many interesting school board, if you follow elections, school board elections are interesting, very interesting. One person wins by a coin flip.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah, that was their lucky day or their unlucky day, depending on how it all works out, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then the other thing I was just going to mention was, they talked about distance learning in West Contra Costa this week, and talked about especially the hubs that are being funded through federal money.
Yes.
So that's a real interesting thing, and how that it continues on. They've got the hub at Hilltop, they have the Bright Futures hub, and then they have one more hub. Where is it? Where is it?
And they have several in other parts of the county as well that are being funded by the Board of Education.
Oh, there's the Richmond Parkway. Oh, that's right. There's the Richmond Parkway YMCA. You visited. That's the one you visited, right? And that's getting $120,000 from the county board.
Wow, I'm glad you.
That's how that's, and that money I'm assuming is coming from the CARES money.
Correct. They are.
Then the other one is the Richmond Police Activity League, RPAL.
PAL. Okay.
And they have, and they all have spots available. The YMCA has 50 spots available. 24 children are enrolled. The RPAL has 24 spots available. 9 children are enrolled.
Oh my.
The Richmond one is getting $20,000 a month from the county board.
Wow.
And then the last one is Bright Futures, and they have 94 spots available. 41 are enrolled, and they have 150. They have a contract with the district for $150,000 a year.
Wow. Well, and it occurs to me, our homeless kids, our foster kids, I mean, those should be like,
There's another one that GRIP is doing.
Yeah.
GRIP is doing one.
Yes.
A hub. Yeah. GRIP is doing a hub, and I read about it last night. It's at the Courtyard by Marriott.
Yeah.
Right up there, because that's become a place of shelter for the unsheltered and the unhoused. They've taken that over. The county took it over for a period of time. So right now, their conference rooms where we used to go to conference to meetings and conferences, those are a hub.
I was wondering why these weren't being publicized or people, and I thought, well, maybe they have too many kids and they're bursting and they don't want any more. But it sounds like they need to put this out there.
Yes.
students that need that, parents, families that need it, and there's spaces.
I'm very surprised. And when you read that, all right, that's, on a PowerPoint, that's on a slide within a PowerPoint, but it's not like being advertised.
Yeah, it should be promoted. It needs to be promoted much more. And I
But
mean, bragged about, like, hey,
Yeah.
we're doing some good things here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
So
and
I'm curious, the Board of Education is going to have a special meeting on Tuesday night because they had more to do. And so this had been moved to Tuesday night. They didn't listen to this. They didn't hear this the other night.
Oh, okay.
They're going to do this and they're going to do summit.
And Summit, yes. And that's a good one too. People tune in to that one. That'll be a
Yeah.
Summit for sure.
Yeah. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
And the other thing they talked about was an esports league, a league for basically video games.
Yeah, I heard about that one. That sounds like fun. Why not?
Why not?
It's very popular. It's very popular.
Yeah, it gets engagement, right? That's the whole thing. It's all about getting the kids engaged, and and raising spirits among our families and children.
We need hope. We need to feel hopeful for sure. Okay.
Right.
What else do we have?
I did one thing. I found the funding. There's a slide here for funding where we have learning loss mitigation funding, the CARES Act funding in California, and
Okay.
it's $2 billion.
Okay. All right.
So Tony was talking about it yesterday on his webinar.
Yeah.
And he's saying people have to know about it and people have to apply. And I understand district people, this is a whole new thing. It didn't exist before, but
They gotta.
everyone has to just recognize we know it's extra work, but you're going to have to figure out
Yeah.
what strategies you want to use and then
Like,
go get the funding.
one thing I hope I wish they would take year-round calendar more seriously. That doesn't seem to be, I mean, it really would help with learning loss. Somebody that taught in a year-round schools, it just, there's.
This may be the time that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be all the blended learning that comes back. I mean, who knows whether or not year round might make a difference. Maybe you do year round and you're able to go back and forth into whether or not you're virtual or you're not virtual, or who knows?
It makes it more flexible for those kinds of things. Really gives you flexibility. So I just wish they would pick that up also. I keep talking about it.
You do. No, it's good. You're an evangelist for year round calendar.
Yes. Okay, that's good to know. There is money. That's hopeful.
That is a really
money.
good, hopeful sign.
Don't leave the money on the table, please.
The other thing that they had, Mr. Thurman Superintendent Thurman did a really good best practices webinar yesterday, which I also linked to, and it's got best practices for teaching.
Oh.
And there's two takeaways. One is there are superstar teachers, but everybody is not going to. This is very hard. And when you look at how much time it takes to put in to do it, and they had a woman who is the teacher of the year, and you could clearly say yes, there's no question she is the teacher of the year. Wow. And but my hope is that she doesn't get burned out. I think as teachers are expected to rise to this occasion, we have to be able to support them so that they're not burned out and that they're able to give themselves some self-care, and that's okay.
Exactly. Because people are getting nervous breakdowns and they're leaving the profession, and we've got to give them more hope and more support. And absolutely.
Right. And these best practice webinars, they're great, but we just have to recognize the standard they're setting is, the 150-hour week or something that somebody is. It's not something that the average teacher who is balancing his or her life will find easy to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that really has to be something I think that people need to. I know that CTA and the teachers unions are aware of how very much their teachers are struggling and of what's being asked of them. And you made the point earlier that people in the beginning realized how their teachers were saints.
Yeah, when it started, everybody was like, oh my God, teachers, they should be paid more. And I never realized how hard they work. Boy, that changed in a few months. Now the teacher unions are the villains to stopping us from
Right.
coming back. And I'm like, wow, whatever happened? That was fast.
Right, right. And these are the same people who just are trying to protect your children and protect their own families.
Exactly, exactly.
That's what we're talking about. I mean, and the people that go back, I mean, I just think that everyone needs to understand there are many private schools that have gone back. They are not unionized. Their teachers will be fired if they don't go back.
Yeah, it's a different environment. Exactly. They don't
This
have
is not like, oh, they have the good teachers who care about. No, I mean, I have nothing against their teachers, but I will tell you, their teachers are under greater stress than anybody because they know they're going to lose their jobs.
Yeah, exactly. It's much more complicated than you realize. Exactly.
It really is. It really is. And so as we look back on this later and notice how it went from teachers being the saints to teachers being demonized, it was done without people really understanding what they were doing.
No,
Yeah.
no, but how, how difficult it really was, how difficult it is. So
Right.
that's
And how many heroes there are, all of these teachers, who are, and I understand. And the young woman in the webinar was saying, well, I work till 8 o'clock every night and sometimes I have to go longer and I have to work on the weekends.
no, we should not have to do that. Expect people to do that. You can't expect that, it's
No, it's too, and you can't expect them then to find joy in their profession.
yeah, yeah. So I have a question. This $2 billion, could some of that be applied to the issue of teachers and
I think
burnout?
it can. I think this is what people have to get creative about,
Okay, okay.
right? Instead of just saying it's for PPE or, whatever it is however they're putting it all together, they need additional support people to come in and support teachers, right?
Yeah.
Additional tutors. I mean, the people who can support, we understand the teachers and the parents are both desperately trying to reach children who have never been reached over a screen before. That's not how it was done.
More teacher aides, maybe a way of doing team teaching. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things that you could do creatively so that there's less pressure.
Right. And the purpose of all the adding new things in, I mean, this is it. When I mentioned this to a teacher, she said, I am not going to look at one more new thing.
That's right. That's right.
So
Yeah.
that has to not be the approach.
No, it's
Right. So when
be,
you look at the webinar and the young technology teachers, oh, I've got 7 more new things. No,
they're not gonna go for that. We'll have more people. Well, the teacher shortage will get bigger.
this isn't the time for that, right? I mean, you can introduce things slowly. You can have people who want to be beta testers. You can do. I was on the technology committee for years in West Contra Costa, and it took time. We had to have teachers who were all in, who loved it, and they became their evangelists, the teacher trainers in each school. They were people who people could go to for help, but nobody was expected to know as much as them.
Yeah.
Right.
You bring up a good point. I remember we used to have teacher coaches. We had a teacher resource person. We had, and even our department chair had time off when they could, some period of time, so they could help all of us. We had a lot of support way back when we had money. So we could bring back a lot of those things that we had before. That would help teachers immensely.
Instead of let's buy 3 more pieces of technology.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, no. There's a lot.
That's sort of the conversation people have to have around this money, and asking teachers how they can be helped.
Yeah.
And the problem is we're all at the same time really hoping that this will be over.
Well, yeah, we do have the vaccine and all that, but it's not going to happen overnight. We have vulnerable communities. We have people resisting the vaccine. We're still going to have this issue, certainly through the school year. So yeah, we have to be prepared for that as well, for that eventuality. So,
So
but
there's
there's hope.
there is a lot of hope, and I think that what we all want to do is just share out ways that even when you're showing a best practice, and I came away from that thinking, well, I learned so many great best practices, but I'm not expected to have to all of a sudden implement a dozen new great things,
No, no.
right? Or live up to the standard of these saintly people who are putting this much time in.
Yeah, and I would think as a teacher, what my goal would be to try to get back to what I used to do, but doing it this way. So then you're going to tell me do that, plus you're going to add all this other stuff. That's adding to my stress. So that's not going to be that helpful. But
Yeah,
help
it's
back, that feeling of, accomplishment that I had in teaching effectively, So yeah, we can think of some ideas, couldn't
I
we?
think we do. I think we need to just take best practices and sort of pivot on the best practice idea
Yeah,
and say,
yeah,
for some people, this is, if you are the early adopter and you want to try every good thing, and for you, that is something that's lots of fun and
yeah, yeah.
energizes you and your kids love, go ahead. But if we already know who you are. And you know what? You already did all of those things on that list, because I looked at that list and I said, that's nothing new on there, unless I was a person who never wanted to do any of this stuff. Then I hadn't heard it, but the others were all doing it already, because those were not necessarily brand new.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
it's
That's good.
important for us to look at in 2021.
Exactly. Okay. All
Right.
right.
I had a couple of things on privatization.
Okay, please share. Yeah.
One of them is a really good webinar by Public Schools, Public Funds for Public Schools. It's a great organization. And they did a webinar with Carol Burris from Network for Public Education on A Wolf at the Schoolhouse Door, The Dismantling of Public Education, which is a book that was put out. And anyway, it really tells the story of the wolf of the billionaires and privatizing.
Yeah. That's a new book? It's a new one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
A wolf at the schoolhouse door. But
Okay.
the conversation is also very worthwhile on the
Okay.
webinar. The other one was there's another organization. What's it called? Well, anyway, I have the Facebook link in here, and they have tracked what's going on in Los Angeles around privatization. And so what's happening in LA is, of course, they have more charter schools than anybody.
Oh, yeah.
And like everything else, they are having to be renewed, right?
Yeah.
And someone somehow taped a conversation or a statement by a president or a school leader of one of these charter schools that's going through renewal, where she explained what the California Charter School Association told her she had to have as her strategy.
Okay.
And what the strategy was she had to get her renewal in earlier, because they wanted all the renewals submitted at the same time, basically to overwhelm the department, the oversight department in LAUSD.
Wow.
And she said, if I have to, she literally told this to her board, you're wondering why I'm putting it in now, because I don't have to. The reason is because they want me to be in with the herd. Because if I don't go in with the herd and they have time to look at my application, they'll pick it apart.
Wow. That's vile. That's just disgusting.
But that just tells you nothing has changed.
No. Oh, no. They're not giving up. They didn't making money. This is their.
And that's the strategy. The strategy is to weaken oversight.
Okay.
Right. And that's a strategy to be aware of on the county board as well. Right. Yeah. I mean, that's flat out what she said.
Yeah. Yeah. Oversight has to be very strong.
It has to be
transparency all around. Absolutely. And that's what I know I'm going to help contribute to, for sure.
That's exactly right. And here she can inspire you. This
Yes.
whoever she is, the president of Xterra. Just you can quote her. Yes, what we
Thank
want.
you.
We understand that you want it to be part of the herd, but what we want is to make sure that doesn't happen and figure out a way for that never to happen.
Yeah.
So maybe you have to have rolling dates or something so that you're
No,
so
no.
that yeah.
We can actually say thank you for submitting it earlier, because that gives us more time to look
Yes.
it over, because it's really not due until much later. That
Right.
works to our advantage.
Right.
We'll just
Right.
line them up.
But the fact that you submitted it when you knew 7 other schools were going to do it at the same minute, and
Yeah.
that at that time the statute then says all of them are due on the same date.
Oh,
That's
that's
the
what
problem.
it did. Okay, that's what the problem is with that. Oh,
Right.
Then we'll hire more people. We'll do whatever it takes.
Well, that's it. I mean, or you charge them for it.
And we charge
There's a
them.
whole thing around oversight. Who should pay for oversight?
Good. Oh yeah, we can have them pay for that. Good.
Right. Anyway,
We'll think of
but
something.
that I just found that to be the most interesting thing. So what? And you wanted to share some things around CTE, right?
Well, it just, this is a bigger conversation. Maybe we'll do this one in January and
Okay.
talk about how the pandemic has affected CTE and career paths. Because I would like us to do a good job on that one.
All
So
right,
let's
that's a great idea.
explore that in
So-
January. So are we ready?
People can look forward. They can look
Yes.
forward to us talking about that.
Yes.
So the only other things I had in here were the big updates, which was that everybody on the UTR slate got signed in and started their new jobs this week, right? You and then the entire group from West Contra Costa.
Yep. Yep.
Our take action is for Social Security fairness, which we're
Yeah,
going to leave on here until they actually do this
please.
someday.
And we were connecting that to the teacher shortage, remember?
Yes.
That CTE, well, we need more CTE teachers, but what they don't realize is once you leave the private sector, then you come into teaching, you may not get that Social Security that you earned.
Right.
And that would discourage people from wanting to become teachers. So they need to change that in order for us to get the teachers that we need.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the number one thing. I mean, when they're talking about all the other things, and there are so many other things, we need to have a pipeline. We need to have education academies. We need to, I think, really, as we're talking now about teachers leaving because they're burned out, we have to address all of those issues. But
Yep.
this one is just blatantly unfair.
Yep. Perfect.
And considering if this is a decision, this is a decision by Congress. Congress needs to just say, look, it's time to stop being unfair to this group of people for no reason.
Campaign out there that's working. We need to support that campaign for sure.
Yeah. So that's on here. And that's the legislative alert from the California Retired Teachers Association.
Then that's it.
All right. And now we're ready for our joke.
Ready for a joke? So here's
Mhm.
a Christmas joke from Carlos. Okay. So, Madeline, what was Santa's favorite subject in school?
Oh, Consuelo, I don't know. What was Santa's favorite subject?
Trump administration, and
It
there are
was
two things.
Chemistry. Chemistry.
I love it.
Okay. All righty. That was it.
Chemistry. I
And
gotta turn
his
this
enablers
off.
that we should never forget. They tried to end democracy.
Oh dear.
This was a video that didn't want to play or that wanted to play whether I wanted it to play or not. I want to read something for us to end this year on. And I wanted to give a shout out to student trustee Stephanie Garcia Avila, who added this to the agenda in the West Contra Costa School Board. And this is when she added the acknowledgement of the native ancestral lands. And as we have done here in the beginning of our presentations every week, but she also added this, and we wanted to save this for the ending of this episode as we end 2020.
Yes.
We recognize that we are presently on the land of the Chochenyo, Moquema, Karkin, and Ohlone peoples, and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy. My spirit is with you. The spirit of the people has never left. And in the past, and now in the present, and moving to the future, we are still here. With our love and prayers, we are still here. We shall walk in spiritual beauty forever.
That's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Good way
All
to
right.
end.
We'll see you all in 2021.
Bye.
Bye-bye.